this month, the CDC reported that from January 1st to May 17, 2019, over 880 cases of the measles were reported in 24 states. This is the largest number of cases in the United States since 1994. And previously, it was thought that measles had been eradicated in the year 2000. But now these diseases are once again on the rise. Let me be clear. Infectious disease is a threat to society. So if this can be avoided through vaccinations, should the use of them be up to personal preference, or should they be mandated? Well, it's been proven that when enough people in a community are vaccinated against these diseases, that they can, in fact, be eliminated. But recent outbreaks show one weakness in our community. That weakness can be attributed to the neoliberal ideology of anti-vaccination, or anti-vax for short. But to understand why vaccination should be mandated, we do have to look at a couple points. First, we'll discuss how safe a vaccinated majority is. Second, we'll contemplate the reason why vaccinations have become a topic of debate. And third, we'll see what view we all need to share when it comes to vaccination. So beginning on that point, we'll start with why these infectious diseases are so prevalent. Now, just like in times before, these diseases have shown face in areas that they have previously been eradicated from. Let me be clear, this is not an individual matter, but it is a battle for the entire community. Can it simply be summed up to a matter of personal choice? Well, if you believe so, I would like for you to think. If the consequences of one's decision extend outward, is it moral or is it ethical to allow one person's personal sovereignty to topple over the entire group's security? I think we all can answer that is a large no. But now that we have understood that we have to do something as a community together, we want to realize why this thought process of anti-vax is on the rise. Well, this anti-vaccination movement is stemmed from a large skepticism of the health system and medical professionals. And it sometimes can lead to late vaccination or even complete rejection. Professor Paul Ward from the College of Medicine and Public Health of Flinders University stated this: in neoculture, parents are required to understand, make decisions, and live in terms of personal choices, even in the face of indeterminacy and risk. This increased notion of effective parenting being linked with education and thinking of the future, no doubt has a good stem of goodwill. The need for parents to promote for the general welfare of their children, as well as a person to provide for their own happiness, has caused a decrease in vaccinations. And this decrease in vaccinations has, in turn, made an increase for the risk of an outbreak. So now that we've discovered why this decrease of vaccination and the idea that vaccinations are bad has arisen, we have to understand where this comes from. So lastly, what we'll discuss is how the internet is influencing the movement of the anti-vaccinations. A lot of people in this generation use the internet as their primary source of research, and it gives them a level of empowerment and a sense of education. They trust these information sources, and then they thus refuse vaccinations despite the advocacy of medical professionals. Professor Taro of Cornell University, in his book, Power of Movement, Social Movements, and Constituent Politics, states that the internet perpetuates social movement. These internet sources are platforms for recruitment, fundraising, and for the development of a collective identity and ideology. They help spread this ideology and proliferate its teachings. The internet, though, as we know, cannot always be trustworthy. These internet sources also employ a form of psychological targeting known as emotional framing, which creates a false sense of negative connotations when linked to vaccinations. So this entitles a false sense of scholarly refined appeal that people then adapt into a lifestyle. This helps sell their beliefs, and thus, when they believe it, they no longer take part of the vaccination. But this obviously can be a detrimental decision. As our new generation seeks independence from social norms and routines, they become more skeptic. And this skepticism has altered the views of vaccinations. This blind trust of internet sources and internet blogs has led to a higher percentage of non-vaccinations in adults and children alike. And that is making a very sore spot in our country's landscape that has created a susceptibility in our communities. These ideas and opinions are presented as facts through the tactic that we talked about earlier, that emotional framing. So, these facts are seen to be science-based, but in actuality, more than likely, they are not. We must ask ourselves, aside from personal beliefs, is it not our duty to protect our fellow man and neighbor? Furthermore, should we not protect the longevity of future generations? In 2000, the measles was eliminated by a decision of the entire community to fight the diseases together. Now is not the time to regress, but rather, now is the time to work alongside your neighbors, your friends, your families, and people you meet to fight these terrible diseases. Thank you so much.
We made it! Yes! Is that okay?
That's it.